Well, I think, that's, again, we want to make sure that it's on a sound scientific basis, but I think that's really, one of the driving forces for the idea of a population kind of screening, so that you're not depending on your family members to tell you that there's something going on. You're not dependent on your family history. You're not dependent on your physician even, but it becomes something more that people do. An analogy would be, for example, again, I'm speaking to the Ashkenazi Jewish population that this has happened in, but it's also happening more and more in in every group, and that is, for example, carrier screening for diseases like Tay-Sachs or cystic fibrosis, which is not specific to the Jewish population. So that kind of model, I think, speaks exactly to what you're talking about, and that is making the information more widespread, because you take it out of the realm of genetics or the realm of oncology and you turn it into something that's more of a public health issue. But it's a long process, and I think we have to realize that.
Larry, you have a comment on this?
Yeah, I think you're identifying a really critically important issue, which is sort of public information and public buy-in to the process of what we're trying to do here. We don't have all the answers. And I'm just going to bring up, the gorilla in the room, because because the fact of the matter is that no, you're not the gorilla, but Laura Esselman is sitting here, wrote a very important paper and did some very important presentations to show the limitations of screening, the advantages and limitations of screening, like with mammography. That it helps, there's no question, and nobody's advocating that we change guidelines. But you can have very aggressive cancers that even if you pick them up early aren't going to make a difference. You can have slow-growing cancers that even if you pick them up early, they wouldn't have hurt you anyway. And so it makes it confusing and it makes it difficult. There's no easy answer. And I myself used to bridle years ago, and I think the message is less than it used to be, where there'd be big sessions where they say, all you got to do is get a mammogram and stop worrying. It's mostly curable if you get a mammogram, and don't worry. And it's clearly not the case. And what the public really has to know is the only answer is research. And it's a very underfunded enterprise compared to the magnitude of the problem. Where a third of American women are going to get cancer of some form or another. Half of all American men are going to get cancer sometime in their life or other. And if you watch your diet and your cholesterol and blood pressure and you jog and exercise, you've increased your chance of getting cancer because you're not going to get a heart attack first.
By the way, though, that little statistical fluke causes us a lot of aggravation, because people think things raise their risk. It comes up with tamoxifen. It comes up in other settings.
And the fact of the matter is that you can just see by the expertise in this room and the expertise in this panel, there's a lot of tools that we have available to dissect this problem. And as a nation and as a world, and really the United States is in much better shape than many places, as you've already heard. We're just not putting our energies behind this, in any realistic way. $1.25 per American per month doubles the National Cancer Institute budget. I mean, most people can afford $1.25 per month, and people don't realize the magnitude of universal buy-in with small commitments rather than some extremely generous individuals who we also need with very large commitments. Is that breast cancer we can eradicate breast cancer. We can eradicate all cancers. We know enough now that if we pursue even just the areas of investigation that are now currently underway in BCRF and in our collective communities, that we know we've already made a huge difference, and we know we can make a bigger difference. But we really need the support so that getting the message out there, not only in terms of what you can do as an individual, but what we can do collectively to help all of us as individuals, is extremely important. And we tried every way that we can. You see, full-page ads donated by the New York Times, about what we do, and other organizations of this type. We're doing everything we can, but the word has to spread. And if the public really got excited about this and really understood the implications of this and really made a commitment to this, that I think we could see progress extraordinarily quickly, especially because we're all networked. I mean, you can see we're there. The machine is ready. The machine just needs the fuel. So that's something that you can do not only for yourself but for everybody else. Is we've got to get behind this research effort and really make a universal commitment rather than a universal sacrifice. It's not a big sacrifice. If we could double the NCI budget, for example, in this country, we could double the BCRF budget so we can support other international research. I mean, we could just do extraordinary things. We just have to get behind those efforts.
So So Ken Offit has a comment from the back.
I just want to amplify on what Larry said, and also to the young woman with a mutation, a BRCA2, probably mutation I discovered, so I take a personal interest in this topic. We have made great advances in translating this research. MRI, which is this other form of breast cancer screening, which is expensive, even given our current health care debates and so on, we have made progress since our discoveries to translate this to clinical care. And so these MRI exams now are reimbursed. They're part of our cancer center guidelines. And this translation to make this reimbursable, payable, happened because of research that came through organizations such as this that have now been translated to general care. Now that doesn't diminish, though, the challenge to get the message out. And as Larry said, the screening has to be focused on the populations at greater risk. But I don't think there's any debate within our field that this group is the group at the greatest risk, and we've made significant advances over the past 5 or 10 years.
You know, I agree completely, and I would also just highlight for everybody, because you're becoming drawn in, I think, I hope, into the world of science, that science isn't always filled with absolute answers or black and white clarity. And one of the interesting dilemmas that we confront, and all of us who go to the clinic on a daily basis will face, is at 9 o'clock the complaint is, why aren't more people having screening? And at 9:15 from the next patient is, how come I got screened and I had this false finding and I had to go through 2 weeks of aggravation and an invasive procedure? And we're very cognizant of that. But we do have to, all of us together, understand that we move ahead collectively. We're not going to arrive at an absolute perfect, simple answer for each person going into this. And I think that there's a kind of maturity that we all have to gain as scientists to understand that.